I am Johnny Massacre, and welcome to the Johnny Massacre Show. This is the Wednesday Night Massacre. On tonight's show, Joe Rogan reacts to Elon Musk buying Twitter. Also, the fallout from Musk's Twitter purchase continues. And finally, for tonight, Massacre mates. Donald Trump will not be joining Twitter, apparently. Who is fucking with me? Give me a hell yeah! So. Little recap for y'all. Elon Musk bought Twitter, and I was very, very happy about that indeed. Now, the internet reacted to this. Actually, everybody fucking reacted. Do you want to see the meme that best, in my opinion, sums up Musky, rusty, crusty, lusty, musky Musk purchasing Twitter? Okay, it is this meme. So we've got Elon Musk drumming on a park bench with Donald Trump boogieing and dancing in the background with a meme cat headbanging. Unfortunately, though, I don't think Donald Trump's going to come back on the platform because he said he wouldn't. We'll get that news later, but I kind of think he is. Anyways, that sums up the internet's reaction to Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. And Joe Rogan reacted live on his show to the news of Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. Would you like to see or hear, or perhaps both, what that looked and sounded like respectively? Here it is. Take it away, Joe.
This is where we find ourselves with Elon Musk about to buy Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Apparently it's going down.
It happened.
Oh, shit!
What?
Oh, shit!
The press release has been announced.
Elon Musk just bought Twitter. We got a movie star type of a superhero. It's like a movie. Like if you had a movie and there was a guy who was like a hero in the movie who happened to be a billionaire, does wild shit, like makes his own rockets and drills under the city and electric cars and then buys Twitter.
Insane.
Elon Musk agrees to buy Twitter in a $44 billion deal. Agreement to take social media network private marks the close of dramatic courtship. Here's why that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, tell me. I need to hear what you think.
He believes that free speech is important, and not just important, vital for a democracy, for a functioning democracy. And I agree with that. And what's interesting about this is we found out some things about Twitter, and one of the things they do is shadow ban people. So they make it so that your content, whatever you put out, has less impact. It has less engagement. They limit your ability to express yourself. They ban accounts, and they ban accounts if the account says something that they don't agree with. If the account says something that violates what they believe. Mm-hmm. Also, this ability to shadow ban people has to be exposed.
Right. That happens on TikTok. Do you remember that clip you just saw?
Yes.
Where I said I should be, it was about me and my body and how I felt.
Yeah.
It was taken down and I was put on probation.
Well, TikTok is rough with that.
It's the roughest.
Yeah. Well, I think they don't want anything that interrupts ad revenue and anything that gets them.
Can someone buy TikTok and please
maybe you'll want to buy TikTok next.
Jesus.
But maybe the Chinese won't sell. Maybe if they sell it, it'll be like one of them deals like you think you bought it, but there's nothing in it.
I doubt someone's going to sell. They're not going to sell TikTok. They're really the worst. They're the
TikTok's the worst.
I can't believe TikTok. I didn't think they were going to.
There you go. So they're reacting live there. So that's kind of amazing footage. So Joe Rogan hearing the news on his show. Obviously, young Jamie broke him the news because he wanted to get Rogan's reaction, riffing off it. And you can see the excitement of Joe Rogan. That mirrors my excitement. If you want to watch the video, what I found out about it, you can watch it there. And I'm just as excited as Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a champion of free speech, so he knows better than anyone what this means for Western freedom. That guy really knows about what freedom is. He knows about the American founding, the Constitution, what makes America tick, what makes America great. And so his reaction tells you how important potentially this purchase can be. So the fallout from the purchase continues, because Rogan, of course, wasn't the only person who reacted to the news of Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. The White House, the Biden administration, reacted in predictable fashion, as well, of course, as the whole of Twitter. Twitter was fucking nuts, spicy as fuck yesterday. It's kind of like the old times when the internet first came through, the golden times, where people can just say what they want and they're not being oppressed and censored. It was fucking delicious. So we're going to get to now the Elon Musk tweets in the wake of his purchase. We're going to get to the White House and the Biden administration's comments. And we're going to get to a curated selection of Twitter comments. So first of all, Elon Musk tweeted out various things on their Twitters. Let's have a look what he tweeted out. Actually, above Elon Musk's tweet, we've got Kerry Berry saying Elon Musk has over 50 million more Twitter followers than Joe Biden. And he has a laughing emoji there, but it's actually a very serious comment because, I mean, big tech are as powerful as the government. They're like a government unto themselves. And they can censor the President of the United States of America and ban them from a service that is necessary to even become the president. So they, in some ways, have more power than the government themselves. When it benefits the current government, you don't hear a peep from them. But as soon as Elon Musk takes over, suddenly the White House start getting vocal about it because they're tyrannical. They want a different set of rules for them than for you because they basically hate you and they think you're a piece of shit, quite simply, in my opinion. So Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Another reason Joe Rogan reacted that excitedly is because the person who owns that has as much power as the government in many capacities. And they're all unelected officials, but I'd much rather have Elon Musk than a bunch of these woke people destroying our lives. Anyways, the tweet that I did want to reference was this. Elon Musk had the top charts of the App Store, and he says Truth Social is currently beating Twitter and TikTok on the Apple Store. Now, this is so refreshing. This is why I love Musk, because he's honest. Do you think Twitter would ever tweet that, one of their management, and say we're being beaten by Trump? They can't even have his name in their mouth, let alone do a news piece. Elon Musk just going by reality, what is real. He just bought Twitter, and Twitter's number 2, and Truth Social's number 1. So Donald Trump's actually doing very, very well on Truth Social. And the reason he tweeted this out was revealed in the next tweet, not the one where he said it should be called Trumpet instead, which isn't a great name for what Truth Social should have been called. Elon Musk said Truth Social, terrible name, exists because Twitter censored free speech. So what he's saying there is all of the people who went there, making it the most popular app in the world today, actually could be on Twitter still. But because Trump was censored, then they went somewhere else. And so all these potential customers could come back to Twitter. Now, that is what a good manager does. So big up Elon Musk for that. He tweeted out a couple of other things in the wake of his purchase of Twitter, which you should know about. So one of them is, he says, for Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral, which means effectively upsetting the far right and the far left equally. Good. So, wow. I mean, this is essentially what you want. I don't know if it's possible, but this motherfucker, if he can get us to Mars, maybe he can make a neutral social media platform. I would love to see someone free from the intellectual pathogens plaguing social media today and big tech actually have a go at making a neutral platform. And if he succeeds, it just will cast the transgressions of big tech in an even harsher light and how they deprived us of having a neutral platform, exploiting it for their own political agenda and gains. Other tweets by Elon Musk, which I want to show you, is this. He says, by free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask the government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people. And the law he's referring to is basically the law of free speech, which doesn't apply to Twitter because it's a private company. But now, apparently, suddenly it does, now that Twitter is owned by someone the Biden administration do not like. Elon Musk tweeted out, the extreme antibody reaction from those who fear free speech says it all. Yes, we're now living in a culture, and it's big tech's fault, in my opinion, through their relentless propaganda and ideological subversion, that we now live in a culture where we even question free speech. These platforms wouldn't even exist for you to express yourself if we didn't have free speech. You can't enjoy the fruits of America's amazing system and then say, don't want it anymore now that I'm in power, let's cancel it so I can be a tyrant and stay in power forever, because it fucks up the country and the world. Final tweet from Elon Musk today says, suspending the Twitter account of a major news organization for publishing a truthful story was obviously incredibly inappropriate. He's talking about the cancelling of Hunter Biden's laptop, which basically implicates Joe Biden in a lot of crimes. Speaking of Hunter Biden's laptop, wow, check out this tweet by Cigar and Jetty over on Twitter. He says, Vijaya Gada The top censorship advocate at Twitter, who famously gaslit the world on Joe Rogan's podcast and censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, is very upset about the Elon Musk takeover. He references a story that says Twitter's top lawyer reassures staff cries during meeting about Musk takeover. Vijay Gadde, a key executive involved in decisions to remove the former president Donald Trump and ban political advertising, expressed uncertainty about the future of the platform. So she's a liar. She was on Joe Rogan. There's literally quotes of her saying we'd never censor someone for various reasons, which they do censor people for. She basically was instrumental in censoring the president of the United States of America. This random woman we don't even know, who's woke as fuck, who's crying about Elon Musk's takeover. These unelected wankers are the people running the world. No wonder everyone's so miserable right now. Thank God Elon Musk took over this platform. I saw a tweet defending her and saying, well, now look at all the hate in her comments. Well, if you don't basically destroy the universe and ban the sitting president of the United States of America and censor loads of people unfairly and make the world a shitty place, then perhaps people won't be pissed off with you. Not condoning any abuse. I don't think anyone should do that to her, but just saying. I'm Johnny Massacre, and if you're just joining us, we're discussing Joe Rogan reacting to Elon Musk and the continued fallout of Musk's purchase of Twitter. But if you've been watching from the beginning, stop your grinning and drop your linen. Donate some cash and let's keep winning. Streamlabs.com/Johnny Massacre. The more you donate, the more of me you're going to get. Click the donation link in the description box below and please give generously. Keep this channel running, fund the massacre. We only have 2 days to go to make $575. If we don't get it, I can't pay the rent and I'm going to have to do something else to make money, which means less of these shows. Really, we only need about $250 to keep the lights on. So 2 days to make $250. If you like this show, if you like impartial, fun, punk news, then please give generously. You know what to do. So the White House reacted as well to Elon Musk's Twitter takeover. It wasn't just Elon Musk, of course. So we'll start with Liz Warren, Senator Liz Warren. According to Insider Paper, Senator Elizabeth Warren said Elon Musk's deal to buy Twitter demonstrated the need for serious regulation for big tech. Oh, great. Okay, I kind of agree. So when are you going to regulate Disney? When are you going to do that? Poisoning our culture with insane ideology and wokeness. When are you going to regulate them? It turns out people like Elizabeth Warren were quiet about Twitter when it served her purpose. If they're so morally egregious and she allowed them to operate with impunity, that just shows you she's a cynical motherfucker and shouldn't be trusted. This is pure hypocrisy. Oh, so you suddenly need to regulate big tech when one of the big tech institutions is something that's not resembling pure radical Democrat madness. I mean, look at this graph by Vox. This is employee donations to midterm candidates by party. This represents the donations to either the left or the right by big tech employees. And all of the biggest big tech companies, Netflix, Twitter, Airbnb, Apple, Stripe, Lyft, Google, Salesforce, Facebook, Tesla, eBay, PayPal, Microsoft. Ironically, Musk created PayPal. So PayPal's now been corrupted. And now Musk has, according to Elizabeth Warren, corrupted Twitter in an interesting turn of events. Microsoft, Amazon, Uber, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Intel, and Oracle, they all have majority Democrat donations. So all of big tech is controlled by one side. And Elizabeth Warren is now saying they need to be regulated when one of them is not basically Democrat leaning. That shows you how insane some of the Democrats are and leftists are in America. They want no checks and balances at all. The very thing which made America the great place it is today, the very thing that makes up her own government that she plies her trade in, checks and balances she doesn't want applied to big tech. And this goes back to what I was saying about why it's so relevant Musk has taken over Twitter, because they're like governments. They have the power of governments in some ways. And the crazy thing is, big tech has the power of governments, and yet there is no vote. We don't vote for any of them. So no wonder big tech is so horrible, miserable, censorious, because there's no checks and balances like in the American system. It's all just one side in power. So Elizabeth Warren suddenly wanting to regulate big tech when just one big tech company is represented by someone who doesn't think and do what she wants. Incredible stuff, is it not? So I guess to summarize Elizabeth Warren's reaction to Elon Musk taking over Twitter, saying now we suddenly need to regulate big tech, is the left realize if you can control big tech, then you can control elections. Check out this amazing footage on MSNBC, with people on the left now worrying that Twitter might be used to influence an election. The hypocrisy continues thick and fast. Check this out from NBC. Did this guy just describe election fortification?
You own all of Twitter or Facebook or what have you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates, all of its nominees, or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else, and the rest of us might not even find out about it till after the election. Elon Musk says this is all to help people because he is just a free speech, philosophically clear, open-minded helper. You own all.
This is an incredible video, 10.4 million views. So that is what the right, or anyone who's not a radical, insane, woke leftist, has been saying the last fucking God knows how many years, is that if big tech is controlled by someone who's not voted and isn't regulated or whatever, and there's no kind of rules or regulation to these companies, they can influence elections. They can shadow ban people of the other side or the other party, or anyone who says anything that would potentially dissuade someone from voting for your candidate. And that's what they've been doing for fucking years. And no one on the left said anything because it benefits them. But then as soon as just one of those institutions is taken over by someone who's not even on the right, Musk is basically a liberal, just shows you how radical the left has become, that Elon Musk is now considered right-wing, then they fucking throw their toys out the pram and they're worried it could influence elections. This just goes to show you that the left institution in America, the Biden administration, they can't be trusted. If something benefits them, but it's to the detriment of society, they'll fucking take it. And this is why I find the whole demonizing of Trump voters so rich and hypocritical. Because they're talking about how, no, the election is completely fair. But you fucking know that if the shoe were on the other foot and Trump had won, they would have been screaming conspiracies, as proved by this leftist on MSNBC, suddenly worrying about big tech's influence when the side he doesn't like has a little bit of power. Just incredible hypocrisy in the wake of Elon Musk's takeover. So now we get to the White House. Now, Jen Psaki reacted to Musk's takeover of Twitter, who's basically the Biden press secretary who represents Biden's views. Let's see how the White House reacted to Musk taking over Twitters.
Just a quick one on the breaking news, Twitter agreeing to let Elon Musk go through this purchase. Do you have a response to that? And does the White House have any concern that this new agreement might have President Trump back on the platform?
Well, I'm not going to comment on a specific transaction. What I can tell you as a general matter, no matter who owns or runs Twitter, the president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms.
Mate, that's such bullshit. The power of large social media platforms is the sole reason, or one of the main reasons, he got elected. So that's a lie.
The power they have over our everyday lives.
Which got you that fucking job, you fucking idiot.
Has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause.
Oh, really? So you're going to hold tech platforms accountable for all the censorship they've done and all the artificial boosting of your side? No, it's only when it works against you give a shit. These people are such snakes, it's unbelievable.
He's been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and more. And he's encouraged that there's bipartisan interest in Congress. In terms of what hypothetical policies might happen, I'm just not going to.
Okay, so suddenly they're talking about reining in big tech's power when it's even just a fraction of it is controlled by someone they don't like. Now, the problem here is they can't pass sweeping laws against big tech because 99% of big tech is controlled by them, and they need it as a useful political tool. And so they're not going to be able to regulate big tech in that way. What they're going to have to do is they're going to have to regulate a certain kind of speech. The kind of speech that they're obsessed with, intersectional politics and stuff like that, they're going to regulate that, and they're going to say, quite simply, the way they're going to regulate Twitter now is by calling it harmful and domestic terrorism. They're going to say it's full of hate speech and therefore it needs to be shut down. That is basically what they're going to do. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. There's more comments about combating misinformation, which is, as I just said, is exactly how they're going to now try to stifle and stymie Twitter. Check this out from Jen Psaki. Take it away. Let me just reload this. Reload. Come again, select.
The Surgeon General has said that misinformation about COVID amounts to a public health crisis.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, regardless of ownership, would the White House be interested in working with Twitter like it has in the past to continue to combat this kind of misinformation? Or are we in a different part of the pandemic where that kind of partnership is no longer necessary?
Well, I think we engage regularly with all social media platforms about steps that can be taken. That has continued, and I'm sure it will continue. But there are also reforms that we think Congress could take, and we would support taking, including reforming Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and the president is encouraged by the bipartisan support for or engagement in those efforts.
So they can't reform Section 230 really, because Section 230 means big tech companies aren't liable for the content on their platforms as long as they don't act as a publisher. And the irony is they do act as publishers. You go onto Twitter, their news section is curated, they act as a publisher and they censor people, which means they're a publisher. But basically, they can't be done under the letter of the law that they act as publishers, which means they're not responsible for the content on their platforms. If they were liable for the content on their platforms, they'd be sued for all this kind of stuff that happens and they'd cease to exist. And quite simply, Jen Psaki, she's not going to reform Section 230 in the way that will completely kneecap big tech companies. They're going to reform it in a way that benefits the left and not the right. The best way to reform Section 230 is quite simply to bind it to the American Constitution, the First Amendment, which basically says that as long as you're not literally calling for violence, you can pretty much say what you want. And unfortunately, hate speech is a necessary byproduct of that. You can't have free speech without hate speech. But what the left do is they conflate words with violence. So mere words, if you hurt someone's feelings, is violence. So that basically means anything they don't like, they can say, you hurt my feelings, it's violence. That's the kind of laws they're going to try to instill into Section 230. And this is why one of the reasons why they're so obsessed with intersectional politics. They're so obsessed with people of color and trans and gay and stuff like that, because they use these people to antagonize the other political side, the right wingers, the conservatives, the Republicans, into the conversation. And they know the right wingers are going to disagree with all of the intersectional ideology that they propose, like giving puberty blockers and for the conservative Christians, gay marriage. And that's what they always talk about this, because they know the right will react. And then when they react on places like Twitter and they're antagonized into the political arena, they filled it with all these kind of censorship landmines. So like, oh, this company doesn't want to make a birthday cake for gay people. Trod on that landmine, now you're fucking censored. And they'll just, or if you say, men cannot become women, XY chromosomes can't change into XY, you tread on the landmine in their political arena, now you're censored because it's harmful and it's hate speech. So that's what they're going to try to do, is use their kind of political ideology to antagonize Republicans into the political conversation. And then when they do, and they say things about the intersectional politics, like people of color, trans, and all this kind of stuff, then they're going to say this is dangerous. They're going to say these people are harmful, they're domestic terrorists, they're Trump voters, they're January the 6th apologists, and therefore we need to ban them. So I know they're going to try to reform Section 230 into something about harmful hate speech. And what that means is anything we don't like, which is anything that will stop us remaining in power and getting elected. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't fucking think I am. So there you go. Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Joe Rogan reacted. Lots of people reacted, including the White House. And let me get this straight. The party that says men can get pregnant wants to declare what is misinformation on the internet and Twitter. That is very rich indeed. So according to Jack Posobiec on Twitter, he says, breaking, Biden administration, Department of Homeland Security to create a disinformation governance board dedicated to countering misinformation. The only way we're going to get out of this is to get someone voted in who's not of the left, like Ron DeSantis or something like that, and clear out the swamp, the intelligence agencies, the Department of Homeland Security, the CIA. They're so firmly entrenched in culture that it's going to be fucking hard to do, but I think that's the only way we're going to get America back. But people love freedom. The desire for freedom is strong. They haven't passed these laws yet. And unless so long as there's no fortification in the midterm elections, if the Republicans win back a lot of political power, that means it's going to be nearly impossible to amend Section 230. So they're not going to be able to push this through before the midterm elections. So let's hope Republicans win big in the midterm elections. lest I remind you, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat or even a centrist. I'm just Johnny Massacre, punk, music producer, rapper, DJ, and YouTuber living in Tokyo, Japan, and now a fucking gamer. Join my Twitch stream for gaming live streams every fucking day, bruv, in the description box below. So this hypocrisy from the reaction to Musk on the left and in the White House is summed up best by the McGrath Twitter account. They say Twitter is a private company and can do what it likes, unless it's owned by Elon Musk, in which case the government needs to shut it down. So there you go. All these times that you've been gaslit and the left said, it's okay, it's my private company. And then suddenly when the right does the same, it's not okay. That's tyrannical shit. And it's because leftist ideology wants big government. They want to control everything. That's why this happens, in my opinion. That's why I'm fond of the Republicans these days, because they're all about limited government. And I don't know about you, but I grew up raving to drum and bass in London. And that was great because it was as far away, literally geographically under the ground, as far away from the government as possible. And that is freedom to an extent. So yes, look out for this, Massacre mates. In my opinion, you will now see the left trying to regulate big tech. It's going to be difficult to do that because that means they're going to have to regulate their own if they pass sweeping laws. So that means they're going to focus on hate speech. That's going to be the locus of their strategy to block people like Elon Musk. Hate speech, they're going to call people white supremacists. They're going to call people homophobes, transphobes, domestic terrorists supporting Donald Trump. They're going to call you anti-vaxxers. They're going to say anything you say about vaccines or medicine related to COVID is vaccine misinformation. They're going to call you, therefore, terrorists, domestic terrorists in America. And they're going to use that as a pretext to ban you and kneecap Twitter. That is what they're going to do. And remember, Massacre mates, unfortunately, Apple and Google can pull Twitter at any time. But guess what? It's a private company. It doesn't matter. So unfortunately, I think we're now going to need a new smartphone from entrepreneurs with their own app stores, decentralized smart phones. And this sentiment is echoed by Naval on Twitter, who said, if Elon Musk manages to liberate Twitter, efforts to control free speech will move to the Apple Google level and then to the national level. The national level is basically what I just said about the government calling all this different ideology to theirs hate speech and whatnot. So yes, on Twitter, the left was spinning the narrative. The main thing I saw on Twitter from the left was COVID. It's not COVID. Elon Musk could have cured world hunger if he hadn't bought Twitter. A lot of leftists said they're going to leave the stream. Remember, if Donald Trump got into power, we're going to move to Canada. Now it's if Musk takes over, I'm going to leave Twitter. Sean King left Twitter, but then he fucking came back, that race grifter. Guess what, though? Jack Dorsey reacted to Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and he had this to say. Jack Dorsey, ex-CEO of Twitter, said, Elon's goal of creating a platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is the right one. This is also Paraga's goal and why I chose him, the current CEO of Twitter. I don't think that's true, but anyways, he says, thank you for both getting the company out of an impossible situation. This is the right path. I believe it with my heart. He went on and said, in principle, I don't believe anyone should own or run Twitter. It wants to be a public good at a protocol level, not a company. Solving for the problem of it being a company, however, Elon is the singular solution I trust. I trust his mission to extend the light of consciousness. This is, I mean, he's such a hippie, this guy, but there's a good point here. I was thinking about this. I guess the ultimate way to be free is for the people to just manage themselves, right? This is a kind of public protocol and it's not managed by any one entity. But the thing is, you need someone to manage it because people have different skills. And if no one's managing it, it could just be a complete clusterfuck, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I've never really read about this. I just kind of mused on it. So, but I was thinking, if in some perfect world you wanted real freedom, there would be no government at all and the people would just manage themselves. But then you need some kind of hierarchy to function. And whatever hierarchy you make and whatever ideology you use, in the end, it invariably falls to corruption. And then you have the power system and then you start to get oppressed. So how is that possible to have a kind of system that's is a kind of public good and isn't run by any singular solution? How can you have something like Twitter that's not run by this one guy who's just going to kind of tailor it to his own ideology? Anyways, Jack Dorsey coming with some interesting philosophical comments there. Other things people were talking about on Twitter was, I'm gaining followers. Have you seen? I've started to gain followers. I don't know if this is a placebo, but Avi Yemeni said, I'm gaining followers for a change. Thank you, Elon Musk. Ian Miles Chong said, is anyone else noticing a massive uptick in followers? Some people were saying they're losing followers because people are now leaving Twitter. Now, one of the interesting things on Twitter was, and someone mentioned this on today's cheeky live stream, which you can watch there. they said, I want to make a note for that time. They said that Twitter is feeling incredibly free, uncharacteristically so, and it's true. So over on Twitter, people were testing out the limits of their freedom by tweeting about the 2020 election. Loads of people were saying, can I tweet about this now? And it looks like they can. People were tweeting about the horse dewormer and saying how much they love that. People were talking about masks and vaccine spread. One tweet I can show you is Dr. David Samadi. He said, can you imagine how many lives would have been saved if doctors could have spoken freely on social media in March, April and May 2020? Fuck. Now you can see why the White House want to shut this down, because they want to keep you wearing masks and keep you afraid and keep the crisis going in order to get your votes when you're in a desperate panic and need some kind of savior. JP Sears said, let's try free speech on here for a change. And I blocked out what he said, but it's about horse dewormer. So people are kind of, in a humorous way, testing out whether they can speak freely on Twitter. Loads of people were talking about trans and stuff. So George said on Twitter, can we all finally agree that this is a man? And he had a picture of Rachel Levine. So people testing out whether they can speak freely by going against the intersectional politics that the left loves. And this is what I told you. They use people like Rachel Levine to antagonize people like that, the guy you just saw on Twitter, who's just going to say the reality that no, this person has XY chromosomes and therefore can't become a woman. And then the left are going to use that to say this is harmful. You're erasing trans people and you're adding to kind of prejudice and violence, because now they want words to be violence, and they're going to use that as a pretext to try to shut down Twitter. So Sarah Gonzalez testing out her free speech now on Twitter, saying the COVID vaccine is, and I can't say what she said, but she said something you can imagine. And she says men don't have periods. So this is what Twitter looked like. It was very humorous and was like a real thing you might say with your mates and stuff like that. So I thought this was quite good. And then we kind of finish off with a few random tweets that I really, really liked. So Robert Zubrin says, Elon Musk just gave $44 billion to the former owners of Twitter that they can now use to end hunger, disease, poverty, war, and injustice. Which will they do first? So yes, Twitter owners always masquerading as these morally upstanding people who want to help everyone. Now you've got $44 billion. Are you going to invest that in helping the people? I don't think so, because you're just as cynical as anyone else, in my opinion. Dr. Ellie David said, Dear Wokes, remember that you kept saying Twitter is a private company. It can do whatever it wants. That's right, because now it's my private company. But it's now my private company can't operate with impunity because it says things you don't like, and therefore you're going to wrongly label it dangerous and try to get it shut down. Give me a fucking break. Other tweets that I liked was from Cernovich, who said, Elon Musk did what Trump and the Republicans couldn't or wouldn't. And that's a great point. So let's be honest, we're judged on our actions. Trump said he'll stop the radical left and bring back free speech. He left it in worse condition than when he joined. Maybe it was impossible. I know that argument, and I'm open to it, that the deep state and the system and big tech was just so it's so entrenched and so powerful that it couldn't be stopped. But look, if you're the real super genius, you're going to stop it. And he said he's going to do a lot of stuff and that he didn't do. And one of them is, in the end, if he's really playing 4D chess, he wouldn't have been ousted in the way he was. And he wouldn't have got banned. He would have amended Section 230 to stop that from happening before it happened. Maybe he was just too nice. But that's a good point. The GOP couldn't do this. Musk did. And it goes back to me saying how these people are like governments, right? They have the power of governments. Elon Musk did what Donald Trump couldn't do, which is basically take over part of big tech. Cernovich said, Elon would never endorse Trump. No one serious will. I could see Elon supporting DeSantis. Time to move on from a losing playbook. It's time for competence. DeSantis 2024. Now, this is a conversation for another day. A very, very worthy discussion that Trump is so hated by the mainstream media and the pillars of power. And because he's been banned before, there's many excuses for them to ban him again, which could hurt his presidency. So maybe it's a better idea to move on and go with someone like DeSantis. But it's a conversation for another day, my friends. Other tweets I like, one was from David Smith. He says, the amazing thing about the prospect of Elon Musk buying Twitter so far is how much it's exposed the game. If you genuinely fear and will fight against others having the ability to communicate, then you are not the good guy, period. Amen to that. Excuse me. Amen to that. Jack Posobiec says, don't worry, libs. Elon isn't taking over Twitter to ban you. Let's just call it a great reset. Now, I listened to Jack's podcast. I don't really like it. That guy's a kind of super dyed-in-the-wool Republican. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I just find, I don't know. I'm not his big fan or anything, but I do like some of his tweets. Robert Durden says, if you think Elon Musk buying Twitter is scary, Wait till you hear about Bill Gates buying up all of our farmland. Very scary thought indeed. Now, best tweet of all of this, in my opinion, is from Stephen Knight. Now, Stephen Knight said, this Elon Musk takeover is terrifying. We can't just have people going around and saying what they think. The best way to avoid this fascism is for a team of unaccountable progressives to decide which thoughts are correct via some vague, mysterious, and subjective terms of service. So that sarcastic comment really highlighting how terrible big tech has become. Now, the worst tweet of all of this is from Sean King. There's a funny nickname for this guy. What the fuck is it? Sean King nickname. He's basically a white guy who claims to be black, and he is the worst example, most severe example of ideological subversion you've ever seen. When you see someone who's so obsessed with the cult, for example, someone on the left who'll say everything's racist everywhere, there's white supremacy, patriarchal systems, and all this kind of stuff, and boast about how many abortions they've had. Or when you see someone on the right talking about like everything's a conspiracy theory, man, it's like fucking aliens from Mars and like deep state and all this kind of stuff. That I do believe in some deep state conspiracies, but you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people on the right, everything is a conspiracy and nothing's what it seems, and they're just so obsessed with that ideology. This guy is the worst example of that. The worst example of that. So let's listen to this tweet by this ideologically subverted individual, Sean King, where everything is like racism and white supremacy, just echoing the state message to a T. This is so hard to read. So Sean King deleted his Twitter in a hissy fit, came back, and then said this. Elon Musk has openly called himself a free speech absolutist and said that he wants to create a space where anything can be said about anyone. That's why white nationalists are giddy today, here on Twitter and other platforms that I track daily. So basically, the white supremacy, racism. Okay, great. And then Sean King says, at its root, Elon Musk wanting to purchase Twitter is not about left versus right. It's about white power. This man was raised in apartheid by a white nationalist. He's upset that Twitter won't allow white nationalists to target, harass people. That's his definition of free speech. Well, look, Antifa are free to harass people as well, and all that shit with the stuff that they say. Not physically harass, but they can say all the shit you want. The thing is, I'd rather have horrible groups like white nationalists be able to say what they want and Antifa say what they want than have some unelected bureaucrat dictate what I can say, because you know what happens if you leave that shit unchecked. You get something far worse than either of those things, and that is something like fucking China or North Korea. Those things are not nice, but with our free speech, we can also use the power of that free speech to discredit them, and those people are very easy to discredit. So there you go, best and the worst tweet. Now, The View reacted to this, that ridiculous show. Basically, they said it was white supremacy. I can't be bothered to show it to you. Everything I don't like is white supremacy. And look, all I can say is, if you don't like it, it's my private company. And there you go. So finally for tonight, and please donate generously. In 2 days, if we can make $250, I can keep the lights on. I'd really appreciate that. Donate, hit the donation link in the description box below, streamlabs.com/Johnny Massacre. I'll be well happy. Finally, Trump is not returning to Twitter, apparently. Do you believe this news? Is it true? Because I find it very, very hard to believe. But let's see, shall we? Let's check out this news. We got a tweet from Insider Paper. They say Trump will not return to Twitter even as Elon Musk purchases his platform. Will begin using his own Truth Social, Fox News has reported. And Fox News said, Trump told Fox News just before the deal was announced, quote, I am not going on Twitter. I'm going to stay away. I'm going to stay on Truth. I hope Elon buys Twitter because he'll make improvements to it and he is a good man. But I'm going to be staying on Truth. He also stated that Twitter, quote, became very boring when conservatives were thrown off or got the platform got off the platform when I left. So Trump, Elon Musk said at the beginning of the show that Truth Social is doing better than Twitter right now in terms of downloads. So perhaps Trump will keep it. But look, if he really wants to run in 2024, and he obviously is, he's going to need Twitter. So that's about it for tonight. Joe Rogan reacting to Musk's takeover of Twitter and the fallout of that takeover. Laid bare. I gave you the quotes and comments from various people from the White House, from Elizabeth Warren, from Elon Musk himself, and from various people on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed that very much. I have been Johnny Massacre, and I tell you what, mate, you better be back for the next episode. Otherwise, I'll be coming around your house. Please make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, because that is what all those other cunts tell you to do. Layers.